I thank the chairman. A couple of quick questions. I mean, one, I would just say more broadly, for the better part of the last 11 hours, I suppose, we've been making the case here on this side of the aisle, 13 hours. I stand corrected that the Republican reconciliation bill plans to sell off our public lands. Lo and behold, at 11 o'clock, we finally get an amendment that does precisely what we said this bill would do. But I get the question I have, very simple one, and I think I know the answer from Ms. Malloy, but I'm not so sure about Mr. Amedee. Ms. Malloy, do you represent the areas in this bill in Utah, Washington County, and St. George that you would like to have those lands conveyed?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And this isn't meant to be a gotcha. I'm actually trying to, you all propose this amendment, so considering it. Mr. Amedee, do you represent Clark County?
I do not represent Clark County, but I have been asked by the Clark County Commission to introduce the bill on their behalf as a member of the majority in the House of Representatives.
So you, just to be clear, for all of your Republican colleagues, because I've sat on this dais year after year and been lectured by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle about how important it is to engage your colleagues who represent areas that may be at issue in a particular bill. You don't represent Clark County. There are multiple other Nevada representatives who do. Mr. Horsford represents this area, Ms. Lee represents this area, Ms. Titus represents this area. And I don't think that we should proceed in considering the amendment until we've had an opportunity to hear from them about whether or not they believe that these lands ought to be conveyed. I think that's a fair request. I think you'd feel the same way if any number of the counties that you represent in western Nevada were at issue in this bill. Is that an unreasonable request?
Well, I don't know how it works in Colorado, sir, but I can tell you in Nevada, we all talk frequently, and this is not going to come as a surprise to any of them. Please feel free to consult them.
They support
in any
this?
manner you see fit.
They support this amendment?
They are aware of the,
They're aware of it?
Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm asking you. I'm not putting words. I'm asking you. I'm saying, are they supportive of this amendment? You haven't asked your colleagues in Nevada whether or not they support the conveyance of land in their district, not yours?
The answer to your question is no.
Yeah, well, I think it is deeply irresponsible to put forward an amendment. And I don't take issue, by the way. I might have disagreements on the merits with Ms. Malloy with respect to the amendment, but I understand her desire on behalf of her constituents to move forward with this amendment. But I would think at a minimum, Mr. Amedee, that you would do your colleagues in Nevada the courtesy of at least striking that language regarding Clark County. Engage with your three other colleagues before this gets to the floor, and then have a conversation with them. But to basically say to them that they have no say as to what happens with respect to land conveyances in their congressional districts, I think it's a slippery slope, and I would hope that my colleagues, and Mr. Chairman in particular, I would hope that you would consider that as you weigh this amendment. I really, in good faith, I would hope that you would consider at least striking that provision so that you can give those other members of Congress an opportunity to weigh in here, at least be heard, as opposed to an 11 o'clock p.m. last-minute amendment that they're just finding out about right now as we're texting them. I don't think that's the way to do business in the House. And I would implore the chairman to consider striking that language. I yield to the ranking member.
I have a question for the chairman because in a recent article in E&E News, he said this, and I quote, "I have made things clear. There are some things I won't do. I will never bend on the Constitution, and I won't bend on selling our public lands." That's Chairman Bruce Westerman very recently in E&E News. So, Mr. Chairman, are you bending now?
Like somebody's on the
that
bender.
silence sounds like the sound of bending.
Maybe a bender in the bag.
Well,
I yield back.
I'll reclaim my time, and I guess, Mr. Chairman, if you'll just entertain my request on behalf of Ms. Lee and Mr. Horsford and Ms. Titus, all of whom, by the way, Mr. Chairman, as you know, have served as members of this committee in particular. They served with you in the past. If you would consider striking this language so that you give them an opportunity to weigh in. Mr. Chairman, It's a serious question. I don't think it's an unreasonable request to make.
Gentlemen's time's expired.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McClintock, you're
I'm
recognized.
reminded of a story that goes back to the days of the very colorful Millicent Fenwick. In those days, if you changed a vote on the floor, you were required not only to change the vote, but you also had to provide a reason. Millicent Fenwick rises one day to say that she changes her vote on HR whatever. There's a pause, and the presiding officer says, "Mrs. Fenwick, you need to provide a reason." There's another pause, and she says, "Well, I changed my mind." Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Ms. Ledger Fernandez, you're recognized.
Yeah,
The ranking member of the Public Land Subcommittee.
Yeah, again, I would just say, and thank you, Ms. Ledger Fernandez, for yielding the time. And as she mentioned, I do serve as a ranking member of the Federal Land Subcommittee. Maybe a laughing matter to Mr. McClintock now. Majorities come and go. I look forward to introducing a bill without any notice to Mr. McClintock on the disposition of public lands in his district. Good to know that's the new standard in the House Natural
Well,
Resources
Mr. Huffman's
Committee.
done that on many occasions already, so you're not
I've
setting
never
a
done
new
that in your
precedent.
district, and I certainly intend to, now that
Can
I
you-
know
Can
that
you
that's-
say Auburn
that that's-
Dam?
What was that? I don't know what dam he's talking about, but anyway, my point remains one and the same, which is there's not a member on the other side of the aisle. And Chairman Tiffany, I would hope that you would speak on this, given that you're the chair of the Federal Land Subcommittee, and given that this has been the precedent that we've applied in the subcommittee on bill after bill after bill that we've heard, that members have an opportunity to be heard when the lands are being disposed of in their districts. I just don't, that's not an unreasonable position to take, and I don't understand why the chairman of the subcommittee or the chairman of the full committee on, again.
Gentleman yield.
I would, of course.
Gentlemen, you'll save the outrage, because I've seen it in my own state, by members on your side of the aisle. Save the outrage. They've done it to me, and take your whining someplace else.
Mr.
I yield
Tiffany,
back.
Mr. Tiffany, what I would say to you, with all respect, I don't believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that a markup of this nature has been held in which you have been told, without even participating in that particular hearing, that lands in your congressional district would be conveyed or disposed of or protected. I suspect that that's the latter of which is what you'd object to, but nonetheless, putting that aside, I cannot point to a precedent. And I really, anyway, I'll stop there. Chairman, I'm disappointed. I really think that it would be incumbent upon this committee to give those three representatives an opportunity to weigh in. I cannot believe that you all would proceed on that basis and that basically that's the new standard, but that's fine if that's the new standard. So I'll yield.
Gentleman yields back.